clients are always looking for the same thing. They don't want to learn how to actually program. They need their business solution. Thank you. It's good to be here. Crowd Favorite is actually today an amalgamation of 3 firms that came together. I'm very proud to have founded the concept of what it is today. What we did is we took a firm that was very heavy on project management and process of working with Fortune 100 companies. And then we took Crowd Favorite, which was very well known as one of the founding first agencies to work within the WordPress community for larger clients and on larger projects. And then we took a design firm from Phoenix 40 that was very well known for UX UI. And we brought those together to create the best of breed of types of services for enterprise clients. I'm very proud today of what we've built in the Crowd Favorite culture, because we have a balance between trying to always keep our eye on the ball of the solution we're bringing to our clients and being development first. It's interesting. I feel like one thing that changes literally almost on a quarterly basis is the technology, or how we get there, the processes. But what the client wants has been constant. Clients were going, I don't understand this new web stuff. I don't need somebody to write code. I need somebody to actually just produce this thing and make it work. So it's a constant change of what the answer is technology-wise, or how it's evolving. But clients are always looking for the same thing. They don't want to learn how to actually program. They need their business solution. One of the key things that we're noticing with data these days is that the larger the enterprise, the more the data is distributed amongst different systems. They're having a hard time bringing that data back together. Mm-hmm. So there's a want or a need that we're seeing from our clients to try and re-centralize where that sits. So if we can bring that together, we can control that data, and we can not only have ownership over it, but we can start actually understanding what the true KPIs and the ROI is. Everybody who's familiar with the WordPress architecture understands that we have plugins and we have themes and that kind of thing. But if you actually think about WordPress as a core solution and then say, all right, it does do some things wonderfully and it has weaknesses in other spots. We've been bolting on other open source products to help out, and then creating an overlay UX that is very familiar to WordPress users that takes them through the entire experience. So they're not tied down to the traditional architecture that WordPress brings. The number one strength that WordPress brings to a DXP is its flexibility. We are seeing some of our largest clients do fast, iterative cycles of development, almost on an R&D basis, but they can do it with live product, and they can do it with things that can scale. That's a very good question, because a lot of people are talking about speed these days, but there's a cost, there's an overhead to that. We can deliver very quickly with WordPress, but then you have to be able to then scale what you've created. So the way we look at it is we can very quickly create an MVP, a minimum viable product, on what the client wants on WordPress. But if you set the expectations right up front that this is a stage one, and then to make it scale, we're going to do a behind the scenes phase two that will make that very quick iteration be able to scale, then we can actually create something that has long-term value and goes on. What we've seen is that as we have achieved the democratization of publishing, people don't necessarily want to have that divide any longer. So the future really is front-end editing. Gutenberg is a very solid step in creating that. It's a way to think about content not as the WYSIWYG window that we've all become familiar with in the last 15 years, but how do you actually how can you actually edit that content dynamically without having to move back and forth? If you look back 15 years, whatever was happening in the American market, you'd look to see that in 6 months or 12 months it was happening in the European market as far as digital went or solutions went. We're all familiar with what's going on with GDPR these days. Because they're taking it so much more seriously in Europe than they are here, what you can see happening is a lot of innovations around UX and the customer experience of dealing with their data. They are definitely leading what we are doing here. Mm-hmm. And we're correctly learning some really good lessons from how they're dealing with it. I can remember a time when for 3 or 4 years, we spoke as an industry about how mobile would be the future. And it took another 5 years before it actually sunk in. I feel we're there right now with VR or augmented reality and those things. We're not quite there. It's still a lot of hype, but it's getting so close. So this weekend I went to a birthday party at a friend of mine's, and their daughter walked right up to their Alexa and asked, "Show me this particular product," because they wanted to do a price check to see if they actually had enough allowance to buy it. The next step is going to be having your voice question run through the data they know about you, and not only give you the answer that you specifically asked, but also start to give you a lot more than just a buying suggestion, but what that next step is. We have our clients asking us, how are we going to bring our big data to our client without having to manually cross-reference. It's just amazing to see how close we are. I feel like we're experimenting with it, and we're just getting that first set of data back to really understand if it's really going to grab hold with a customer or if they're going to feel like it's artificial. We're seeing our most established clients, the ones who already have a market position, starting to actually realize that to keep that market position, they need to do a little bit of R&D. And those brands are the ones that are sort of at the forefront of making sure that they're not just competing with possible market competitors, but they're seeing what's next. And that's just a beautiful thing. One of the books that was recommended to me by a common friend of ours was Turn This Ship Around, which is amazing. It's a Navy submarine commander who teaches lessons about how to turn followers into leaders.